Bison Dele was an NBA champion who played for the Orlando Magic, Denver Nuggets, Los Angeles Clippers, Chicago Bulls, and Detroit Pistons. He went out to sail on one of his boats. 4 went out to sea and only 1 came back. This is the case of Bison Dele.
Lindsey blows by Armstrong and Grant dishes to Bison Dele for the dunk. How about the Pistons? They're 20-12 after winning 6 straight. Bison Dele inside for the slam. How about that? Nice job.
Bison was born on the 6th of April 1969 in Fresno, California on Easter Sunday. He wasn't born Bison Dele, however. Brian Carson Williams was the original less-known name that he carried up until 1998. Brian legally changed his name to Bison Dele to honour his Cherokee ancestry and the first person from his mother's side of the family to be enslaved. We will be referring to him as Bison Dele in this video. Bison was the second son of Patricia Phillips and Eugene Williams Jr., who was a part of the musical group The Platters. The couple eventually got divorced. Patricia remarried and moved to Fresno with her 2 sons. That marriage too didn't work out, and it ended when Dele was in junior school. Dele would travel between his 2 parents' homes in Las Vegas and California, attending St. Monica Catholic High School in Santa Monica. He then attended the Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, Nevada, which has a student population of 1,450. It was here in Santa Monica that a star would be born. Dele was a track and field runner until one day he kept growing and growing and growing, until he eventually stood at a height of 6'10". Hightower is more than a justified nickname, and as they say, when life gives you lemons, you can finish the rest.
Brian Williams, he's a 6'8" junior. Watch the alley-oop here from Charlie Hansen. Boy, this kid Williams ought to be in another league or something. Watch him again here. Brian Williams finished with 20 points. Another great game here as he moves inside, gets the rebound, just taps it up and in.
Well, Brian, you had a pretty good game tonight, 20 points, and this team seems like you guys are coming on real strong now towards the end of the season, aren't you?
Yes, we are. At the beginning of the year, we weren't doing so well. We weren't playing together. Now we're really playing as a team. We're looking good.
While a senior in Bishop Gorman High School, he averaged 17.3 points, 12.7 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 2.5 steals, and 9.1 blocks per game in his senior season, shooting 57.7% from the field. His freshman year would be spent at the University of Maryland, and it was here that he earned Rookie of the Year in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He was creating a serious buzz. After 1 season at the University of Maryland, in 1988, the University of Arizona was next. Bison played in Arizona for longer than his stint in Maryland, 2 years around this time. He eventually began his junior year in basketball, playing for the Wildcats in Tucson for 2 years. It was in his junior year in 1990 to 1991 that he would draw serious attention from NBA scouts and general managers alike. He earned all Pac-10 honours, which is a serious big deal. He was one of, if not the best amongst the Pacific Coast Conference that year. He was averaging 14 points and 7.8 rebounds per game. The unreal statistics and buzz surrounding Bison would inevitably see him declared for the 1991 NBA draft as a junior, with the Orlando Magic selecting him as the 10th overall pick. His action at Orlando was limited, however, by problems off the court. Bison Dele was unhappy. In his second season in Orlando, he was diagnosed with clinical depression. It was one of the first publicised cases of mental health issues in an NBA player. The unhappiness and depression led to a suicide attempt when he swallowed a handful of sleeping pills. He also purposely crashed his car into a pole. Dele needed a change of scenery, and just after 2 years he would transfer from Orlando Magic to the Denver Nuggets after the 1993 season. His time at the Nuggets would be all too similar to that at Orlando, a lot of promise and potential but limited on-court time down to his problems off the court. Another 2-year period would pass by at the Nuggets. It was now 1995 and Bison Dele was on the move again. Los Angeles was now where he called home, playing for the Los Angeles Clippers. This was where things took a turn for Bison Dele. More consistent game time would see Bison Dele show all of that trapped potential he had stored up inside of him. He averaged 33 minutes per game in that 1995 season and career highs across the board, including 16.8 points and 7.6 rebounds. The end of the 1996 season would see Dele opt out his contract at the Clippers, and it didn't take long for other teams to come calling, including one of the greatest teams in the league with the greatest basketball player ever. The Chicago Bulls need no introduction, and neither does Michael Jordan. The Bulls were the defending champions going into the 1996-97 season. Come towards the end of that season, they needed some backup. It was well into the 1997 season, and no teams were wanting to take a chance on Dele. The only team who were willing to take a risk were the team with already one troubled soul in Dennis Rodman, the Chicago Bulls. Dele signed with the Bulls in April 1997, pushed and motivated by the great Michael Jordan. He again showed his undeniable talent, averaging 6.1 points and 3.7 rebounds over 19 postseason games that included 16 points and 6 rebounds against the Utah Jazz in the NBA Finals. That same year, the Chicago Bulls would go on to win the series, meaning Dele was now an NBA champion. To say he was a success would be an understatement. He's playing alongside Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and now an NBA champ, and with success, inevitably comes jealousy. Despite playing the basketball of his life at the Bulls, his demons were still inside, and his problems began resurfacing. On one of the Bulls team flights, Dele tried to pull the emergency exit hatch while the plane was 30,000 feet up in the air, and there was certainly no emergency to warrant doing that. Dele later signed with the Pistons. To call him a journeyman, which is someone who jumps between teams, if you didn't know like me, would be putting it lightly. He signed on the dot for a whopping $50 million contract as a free agent in 1997 in the off-season, making his time at the Bulls the shortest in his career at not even a year. Expectations were high, and he delivered, averaging 16 points and 9 rebounds in his first season. This wouldn't last long, however, and in the 1998 season it dropped to 10.5 points and 5.6 rebounds, a big decline. Dele again tried opening the emergency exit of his team's plane mid-flight, indicating that his still fragile mental state was clearly still affecting his performances on the court too. After his second season at Detroit ended, he would walk away from the remaining 5 years in his contract in a whopping $36 million, aged just 30 and in the prime of his career. And the reason for this, which I applaud, was so that he could become a world traveller and seek the meaning of life. He had all the fame and money in the world and still couldn't find himself. If this doesn't prove that money can't buy happiness, then I don't know what will. After his retirement, he travelled and explored, spending long periods travelling to Lebanon, the Mediterranean, and the Aussie outback that is Australia. He DJ'd, jet skied, met the Dalai Lama, ran with bulls in Spain, rode camels in Beirut. He learned to sail and purchased a catamaran, intending to sail the 7 seas. He was finally living out his dreams, doing what he really wanted. This, however, wouldn't last long. There's no such thing as success without jealousy. Treachery comes from those who are close, a wise man once said. Bison Dele's brother, while looking almost identical to his brother, couldn't be anything from further. Kevin Williams was the opposite of Dele. He was homeless and asked for money ever since his brother made it to the NBA. Kevin lacked basic human skills. He was weird and strange to talk to. He couldn't hold down a job and jumped from various towns and cities. Kevin was 6'8" and weighed 260 pounds. He too suffered with mental health issues, trying to commit suicide on multiple occasions, and would also change his name, like Dele did, to Miles DeBoard. He was an alcoholic and frequently took steroids. You can tell he was clearly a troubled individual. Miles could tell that people liked Bison more, and resentment was formed against his brother. He was successful, wealthy, and liked by everyone, the complete opposite of him. Bison Dele was intending to go out sailing in his $600,000 catamaran that he named Hakuna Matata, which means no trouble or no worries and take it easy in the Swahili language from South Africa. The voyage began on the 6th of July 2002 from the Tahitian harbour town of Papet, heading to an island called Raiatea and then finally Hawaii. However, there was an extra, perhaps unwanted guest on that voyage. His brother Miles got wind of his brother's voyage and he invited himself and eventually turned up in Papet unannounced, which was more than likely paid for his brother. His motive for this was to repair their troubled relationship, apparently, but at this point the brothers hadn't seen each other in over 4 years and he was homeless at this point. Dele knew there was only one reason his brother would be out here, and it was for money. The man was a parasite. Dele reluctantly accepted his brother's offer, and the boat set off on the 6th. On board were Bison Dele, his brother Kevin DeBoard, Dele's girlfriend Serena Carlon, and the boat skipper Bertrand Saldo. Let's just say they were in for some very murky waters. Over the next 48 hours, phone calls between Dele and his girlfriend Serena to family and friends back on land were logged. That was up until just the 8th of July. The last phone call that was made from Serena and Bison was at 8 PM. It was to Kevin Porter, who was Bison's business manager. He said everything seemed fine. That was the last that anyone would hear from Bison and Serena. It was a few days after that call when Serena's mum contacted Kevin. She hadn't heard from her daughter and she was worried. She knew that they were travelling, but said that Serena would contact her every few days. The police and FBI were called. Suddenly on the 20th of July, after days of confusion, the Hakuna Matata would finally reappear. However, it didn't make it to Hawaii like intended, and it sure as hell wasn't the same crew that left. Kevin DeBoard was alone. Bison Dele, Serena Carlin, and Bertrand Saldo were nowhere to be seen. So what in the hell happened? I think it's fairly obvious what happened here, as I say, if the shoe fits. The boat had been renamed and re-registered as the Aria Bella. The original name of Hakuna Matata was physically removed from the side of the boat and replaced with Aria Bella. Down to Bison's off-the-grid explorer lifestyle, there were no real alarms raised. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months with no contact. While family and friends knew there was something wrong, the police had nothing to go off. There's no evidence, no foul play, no bodies, nothing. That was up until September 5th, 2002. Bison Dele had reappeared from out the blue on September 5th, 2002 in Phoenix, Arizona. He had contacted Certified Mint, a Phoenix coin shop, in an attempt to purchase $500,000 worth of gold coins. The deal fell through from $500,000 and was eventually negotiated down to $152,000. A check was sent out from one of Dele's bank accounts for the coins, which was deposited and cleared. Dele's bank picked up on the rather strange transaction. He'd not been seen or heard from the 8th of July, almost 2 months ago, and here he was in Phoenix trying to buy $152,000 worth of coins. Something wasn't right here, and his bank contacted his financial advisor, Kevin Porter, who decided to dig a little deeper. Upon investigating the check and transaction, he found that the address on the check had been changed, now directed to a Mailbox Inc. address in Miami, as well as a different phone number. Kevin Porter would call to investigate what the hell was going on, going straight to voicemail, who referred to himself as simply B. Porter had the transaction stopped as he knew there was something fishy going on here. Bison Dele would be back on September 5th to pick up his coins. There was just one slight problem here. This was no Bison Dele. This was his estranged brother and last person to see him alive, Kevin DeBoard. Kevin had his brother's passport and used his resemblance to pose as his brother, taking out $152,000 worth of coins in his name. The police were waiting for him in a sting operation at the coin shop in Phoenix, and DeBoard was arrested. The police, however, couldn't contain DeBoard for long. His brother at this point hadn't been seen in 2 months, and he told them that it was his brother who had set up the deal for the coins, not him. They had no choice but to release him. His brother had just sent him to pick up the coins, nothing more, nothing less, and the police could not disprove this. There was no way to contact Dele to disprove his claims. 2 days after this, on September 7th, 2002, the FBI would discover the Hakuna Matata in Tahiti. Fueling speculation Bison Dele was dead. Kevin DeBoard also left his mother a suspicious voicemail, telling her that he would never hurt Dele and that he would never survive in prison. The walls were closing in on Kevin DeBoard. It was clear he was hiding something. He reunited with his girlfriend, Erica Weiss, in San Francisco and confessed to his girlfriend his story on what really happened aboard that faithful voyage. He told her that a fight broke out with him and his brother Bison. Bison's girlfriend Serena tried to break up the fight between the two brothers and was knocked down to the deck by Bison, smashing her head and dying instantly. The boat's captain, Bertrand Saldo, told the two fighting brothers that they must return to land and report the death to authorities, which enraged Dele, who eventually ended up beating Saldo to death with a wrench. Fearing that he was next to be killed, he grabbed his brother Bison's gun and shot him dead, killing him in self-defense in fear of his life. He then told his girlfriend that he attached all 3 bodies to bodybuilding weights that he found on board, then flung all 3 overboard into the shark-infested waters, then sailed off, returning back to shore like nothing happens. Kevin DeBoer would flee to Mexico after telling his girlfriend his event of what happened. His girlfriend would then contact the county sheriff's department, who then contacted the FBI. What really truly happened aboard that boat, we will never really know. DeBoer, now a fugitive on the run, was found wearing only white socks, laying unconscious on a beach in Tijuana, south of the US border, from a suspected insulin overdose at 11:30 am on September 15th, 2002. He was transported to a hospital back across the border in the San Diego area. He remained in a coma for 2 weeks until September 28th, when he was taken off life support, taking his secrets of what really happened on that boat to the grave. While we will never really know what happened on that fateful voyage, it's believed that the story of events Kevin DeBoer told is complete bullshit. Forensically, it made zero sense. There was no blood anywhere, despite all apparently sustaining injuries, which would result in significant blood loss in most instances. There was not a single drop. To this day, no one knows what truly happened. Considering the lack of blood, it's believed that Kevin DeBoer forced all of the other passengers on board off at gunpoint and left them out there to die in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, sailing back to the shore of Tahiti. It's a tale of jealousy and resentment. How Bison Dele died, we will never really know. You can make your own assumptions. It's all relative to you, as the secrets of what happened Kevin DeBoer took to the grave. It's a cautionary tale in that money doesn't always buy happiness. Many say he was a happier man before the NBA and may still even be here if it were not for his success. Thank you all so much for watching. Thanks to Cement Shoes for suggesting this case, and to Michelle McGowan, who without comment and support on all my videos, I sure as hell wouldn't have been uploading to hit 50 subs. It may not sound like a lot, but it's a massive milestone for me, and I appreciate every one of you. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.